Well, I would say, speaking for myself personally, that if we accept the viability of this project, ipso facto-wise, purely on an ad hoc basis, then I would say, given goodwill and a following wind, that when we get down to the nitty-gritty, we will find at the end of the day that what was the question? It would be as disastrous as that black pudding affair I had in Cardiff. Well, the one I had in Cardiff with Raquel Welsh.
The lines are something of a farce, or, to be more correct, something from a farce. They're the stock in trade of a man with his trousers perpetually round his ankles, in the nicest possible way. Actor, producer, manager, Brian Rix.
Then she suddenly said, "Come back to my house in Llandaff. We'll have an afternoon of tumult."
For a man who makes his living in the bedroom, again in the nicest possible way, Brian Rix is very much an outdoors person. His garden, weather permitting, is his workroom. A place to learn words. It's quite usual in summer to hear risque speeches floating up from behind a rose bush. Lines pregnant with ambiguities issuing from the undergrowth.
"Bring your toothbrush," she said, "and 30. 30 quid? No. 30 black puddings? No, 30 quid. God, if you roll fast, I'll kill you.
But Brian Rix is very much a family man. His house stands on the edge of Richmond Park and has a garden carefully cultivated more to his passion for cricket, croquet and tennis than to his wife's roses. A large lawn, surrounded by large trees. In summer, it's a large, airy extension to a large, airy house.
We open the house onto the garden, and the garden comes into the house, as it were, including the grass clippings half the time. But in fact...
So what do you think this garden says about you? I think it's a fairly uncluttered garden, rather wide and spacious, lots of trees.
Well, it was originally designed as a sort of playground, really. It's got a croquet, and it's got tennis and cricket net and a swimming pool. It was going to have clock golf. At one time it did have clock golf. So we all could play games here, really, and enjoy ourselves, because after all, when the sun comes out, I personally, I know Elspet's the same, and all the family are the same, we rush out here, take off our clothes and disport ourselves. Each year, each month in the Bull, in the Radio Society of Great Britain magazine.
As much as anything, though, it is a place for work. He was just opening a new play in the West End, and naturally enough, the press were round. His swimming pool becomes a sort of press conference centre.
You have to be heard to be experimenting. In other words, you can't put on a record, you can't broadcast like an ordinary radio station would do, or anything of that nature. You can't put somebody else on the air using your gear unless they're a licensed amateur.
His other consuming passion after cricket is radio, amateur radio. After nights spent on stage addressing an audience, he finds it relaxing to address a wider audience, the world, talking to friends in America, Europe, even South Africa, on a powerful ham radio. It's perhaps no large coincidence that an open garden with plenty of conveniently tall trees can grow a rather splendid aerial array. His wife, Elspet Gray, is also in the theatre, an actress with a considerable name in her own right. They have 3 teenage children, a lot of friends, and an easy, informal lifestyle.
I had a long extension phone outside the sitting room, and I have a phone by the pool. And frankly, on a day like this, if I wasn't recording now with you, I'd be sitting at the pool with the telephone at a table, doing some work. I once saw Frank Sinatra, I only pretend to be Frank Sinatra, actually sitting in the pool with the telephone floating on the pool. And I thought this was really the height of extravagance. I wouldn't like to do that because there's 50 volts going through a telephone anyway. But in fact, I at all times I try and get to the garden. If it's warm in March, I've had that pool full in March, we swum in March.
So it isn't just when it's lovely weather like this that you would use it?
We use it as long as we possibly can, and we use the garden all the time. People will be amazed. We are 7 miles from the West End, and yet it looks almost like a small forest, doesn't it, as you look out from here, with an enormous expanse of lawn. But how else could I describe it? We haven't got many flower beds because we can't. We got flower beds, but no flowers grow because we've got so many trees. We are a sort of wild garden in a strange way, except for the rather formal grass area.
You prefer trees to flowers, obviously.
Well, it's a strange thing here because there's a sort of dichotomy between Elspet and I. She's got a thing about the fact none of our roses ever grow, which of course they don't, because we have too many trees. I, on the other hand, have a thing about trees, so Elspet tries desperately to plant the roses in the front, away from the trees, and I keep on saying I won't have the trees cut, so there's this sort of thing. Actually, we get on quite well. We've been married for over 27 years now, but we still argue about whether there should be roses or trees. But that is one of our problems. Right, let's aim for that one. Over there now.
Oh, that's a good shot. You're trying to get it through the hoop, are you?
Yeah, and you see if you can
No,
roke
what am I supposed to do when I hit you?
Well, you can try and roke me, or you can try and get through the hoop.
Oh, that wasn't very good.
No?
Not so much.
I think you're going to roke me. You are.
Not quite.
No.
Brian, how long have you been here?
Since 1958.
18 years. And was it like this when you arrived?
No, not at all. There was a fence at the end there, wooden fence, where the poplar is. There was an air raid shelter down here, and the rockery was all round that, and then we moved the rockery. There was a horrible old wooden fence down here, and a horrible old wooden fence down here, which was really falling down. And this was an allotment, which actually belonged to a very rich landlord, Maharaja Baroda. And by dint of hard work and a game of cricket, I managed to acquire this piece of land.
How quickly did it all take shape after you moved in?
Well, I suppose we moved in 58, and this was now more or less as you see it in 1962.
So 4 years.
4
Did you
years.
put this willow tree?
Put this willow in about 1960, 61.
It's very beautiful.
Yes. It's incredible, really, how it's grown in such a short time. You might say, I suppose, it's one of those fringe benefits.